Trust me, I'm just as sick and tired of hearing heavyweight boxers argue over purse splits as you guys are. But here we go again. Andy Ruiz Sr. is claiming that Deontay Wilder is offering his son just 30% for their proposed fight. He called Deontay Wilder dumb and said that his son will not fight for anything less than 50-50. Now, we can sit here and argue all day over who deserves the most amount of money. You could say that, well, Deontay Wilder reigned for a long time as WBC champion and he had more high-profile fights. But you could counter that by saying the majority of his reign as champion, he wasn't making a lot of money. And with Andy Ruiz, he made an enormous amount of money, particularly in the second Anthony Joshua fight. But he still made a decent purse in the first fight. I think it might have been $5 or $6 million, which is more than Deontay Wilder was making for his title defenses for several years. So you can argue back and forth. You could also say Andy Ruiz had 3 belts when he was champion, but of course his reign was very short. Wilder's reign was much longer. Ultimately, it comes down to what your commercial value is right now, not how high it used to be in the past, because you can't go living off past glories forever. If Roy Jones Jr., God forbid, was to make a return to a professional boxing ring right now, yeah, he was pound for pound #1 back in the 90s, but he's not that today. Yeah, he was in big fights back then, but you wouldn't make Roy Jones some huge cash cow fighter today, would you? Against anybody. So, point is, Andy Ruiz has probably had the most recent fight that was somewhat high profile against Luis Ortiz. Did that sell better than Deontay Wilder versus Robert Helenius? I don't know. Maybe some of you guys have got the answer. But the best way to resolve all this, and this is the way it's normally resolved in final eliminators, because this fight is supposed to be a final eliminator for the WBC heavyweight title. And normally in this situation, if the two sides can't come to a deal after the fight is ordered, they're usually given 30 days to come to a deal. And if they can't, then it goes to a purse bid. And whoever bids the most amount of money gets to put the fight on, and the WBC will decide the purse split. But in this instance, the WBC ordered the fight several months ago, and after 30 days, there was no purse bid. And here we are after, I don't know how many days at this point. Is it 90, 120 days? I don't know what it is. No purse bid has been ordered. Presumably, this is because both Wilder and Andy Ruiz are Al Haymon fighters, and Al Haymon wouldn't want this fight going to a purse bid because it might end up on DAZN or ESPN or somewhere else. So maybe he has some type of agreement with Mauricio Sulaiman behind the scenes that they'll go around the standard protocol or forget about a standard protocol and do it a different way where there's no purse bid. I am not saying that that's definitely the case. I've got no knowledge of that being the case, but I can't come up with a better explanation for why a purse bid hasn't been ordered here. Now, what the WBC should do, if they're not going to call a purse bid and if these two guys can't come to an agreement, is they should remove at least one of them, or perhaps both of them, from their position in the rankings, drop them down several spots, and let 2 other fighters in the WBC top 10, top 15 partake in a final eliminator. 2 guys that are not going to start arguing over purse splits and all this kind of thing, or 2 guys who might be with different promoters and therefore there won't be an issue with it going to purse bids, because they can't hold up the heavyweight division like this. The champions are not fighting each other. At the very least, we need the contenders to fight each other. So the WBC need to take action here and sort out a new mandatory for Tyson Fury. Get a final eliminator run, get Frank Sanchez and somebody else in there, let them fight each other, and that person could become mandatory for Fury. Enough of the messing around, because this back and forth between Wilder and Ruiz could go on forever, really, in terms of arguing whose commercial value is higher. Ruiz might say because he's got the Mexican fan base and they really come out and show up for their fighters that he's the bigger draw. He might argue that his purse in the AJ rematch is just as big or bigger than anything Wilder earned in his career. Whatever. For me, the buck stops with the WBC here because, again, this is a final eliminator and there are provisions in place when it comes to final eliminators to avoid a stalemate, to avoid a standoff. In negotiations, you just go to a purse bid. With unifications, yeah, we know it can't go to a purse bid because those fights are not ordered, not normally anyway. There was a time, a very brief period, many years ago, when the WBC did actually order a couple of unifications. One of them was for Adonis Stevenson, I think, to fight Sergey Kovalev. They only did it for a brief period of time and they stopped doing it, unfortunately, because that really would have been a good thing for boxing if they continued it. But for the most part, they do not order unifications between champions. And therefore, it's always going to come down to arguments over purse splits. But with a final eliminator, it's normally resolved very easily. What's the holdup, Mauricio Solomon? Sort it out. You can sort it out. It's within the rules of the WBC to sort it out and decide who gets what. And normally, by the way, in final eliminators, the purse splits are usually 50-50, but sometimes it can be like 60-40. I don't recall ever hearing about a purse split in a final eliminator that was 70-30. To the best of my memory, I can't remember anything like that. It's normally at least 50-50 or 60-40. And let's say the WBC do finally put their foot down and say, okay, it's going to go to a purse split if you guys can't resolve this situation. If they rule 60-40 in favor of Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz needs to take it. I can understand him being hesitant to take 30%. Maybe he feels that's a bit of a liberty by Wilder, but 40% he really needs to take. Because what other options does he have right now? And you do wonder whether Deontay Wilder actually wants this fight at all. And perhaps there are moves afoot behind the scenes to make Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder a final eliminator for the WBC heavyweight title. Because that would fit in nicely with this proposed Saudi tournament. The winner of Joshua Wilder gets to fight the winner of Usyk Fury if that fight happens. So don't be surprised if that were to transpire. But the perception I have is that despite the fact Andy Ruiz is Mexican, if the WBC were to favor one fighter over the other, Deontay Wilder or Andy Ruiz, I think they'd probably go with Wilder because he did have a WBC belt previously. Andy Ruiz has never had a relationship with the WBC, never been WBC heavyweight champion. He was WBA, WBO, and IBF. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think about this whole mess in the comment section below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.